Welcome everyone. Today we have another new episode, and this episode is very important and especially job reset in post COVID-19 era. This is very important for I believe every countries, for developed nations to developing nations. It's very important how they can reset the job opportunities and everything for their local communities. So we have our expert panelist, Dr. William Trazavant. He is a policy analyst for World Talent Economy Forum. Beside that, we have our Professor Donald, and he always give us very good research-based information, which is very much important for World Talent Economy Forum. So I want to start from Dr. William Trazavant. How do you want to analyze this point? How we can reset job in post-COVID-19 era, and what the present condition in USA? I can remember you give lot of like prediction and analysis before the elections. So now many things happening. So how do you want to analyze your point?
Well, I want to say welcome back, and thank you for having me back, Dr. Sharif and Donald. It seems to me, don't mind me, I think that might be me. Hang on. Okay, listen. America is back, and
thank you.
What we have to do is we're in the process of trying to rebuild and restart the economy, and it begins first and foremost with the distribution, mass distribution across countries, not just in Europe or the UK or America, of the vaccines, because that is what we're going to need. Now, the hopeful signs are the following. One, COVID has taught us a different way to work. And that is a trend that is not going to end. So we know, we see, we can do better, we can do differently. And that is going to have a ripple effect across all the economies. Now, everybody's concerned right now about the service sector jobs and those jobs, and they are important because they are the lifeblood of every economy. But they're going to spur new ways of thinking, new ways of doing, new ways of working, and so I'm hopeful. And once again, I'm optimistic. Sharif?
Thank you. Professor Donald, how do you want to analyze this issue, specifically this job reset issues, and how we can solve these things, how we can work together?
Okay. Yeah, you can hear me. Okay. One thing I'm not pessimistic in any way, but I do think that the way that we progress is sometimes 2 steps forwards and 1 step back. So there are steps back in the process, which is fine. That's how we learn things. That's not a problem, really. I'm very hopeful with the new administration, and I'm very pleased that they managed to get through this stimulus package. In the Obama administration, there was a fight by the conservatives in the country that basically they started hollering bloody murder about deficits and managed to basically cut him off at the knees. So we didn't wind up having enough of a stimulus at the last recession to be able to pull out of the recession. So we wound up, the recession was basically, we climbed out of it very slowly, thanks to an excellent administration, the Obama administration. And this time they learned, the Democrats learned their lesson and got through something which I think is a large enough stimulus. In the United States, we have a group of people who are, I think, basically very much against the United States that are in Congress. And the leader of the pack is a guy named Mitch McConnell. And he has vowed that he is going to do everything that he can to wreck the economy and wreck people's lives. And we've got a 50-50 split. So the way that the United States government works right now is that the McConnell and his crowd you can't get through laws unless 60% of the people in the Senate vote for the law to get through. And so McConnell has vowed that he's not going to let anything through whatsoever, and he did it during the Obama administration. He was successful at that. So what we have to do is get rid of the filibuster, which is the rule that makes it 60% instead of 50-50%. So I just want to say that that's something really, really worth watching if you're somebody else in the world and you're looking at the United States and trying to see what's going on in the United States. I'm optimistic that we will be able to modify the filibuster. One of the main things that's going to happen, I'll just finish and give it back to Dr. William, is that the Republicans are doing everything they can to suppress voters, because they're a minority, and the only way that they can win is if they manage to stop people from voting. And so one of the main pieces of legislation that's there right now is a piece of legislation that changes the Voting Rights Act, reinstates the Voting Rights Act, which is a law that made sure that everyone could vote. And if that passes, then the Republicans are doomed, because they're a minority. The only way they're working is by voter suppression. And McConnell can threaten until he turns blue in the face, but if everybody starts voting, the Republicans are going to get kicked to the curb. That's what happened in California. So anyway, how does that affect jobs? Well, I'm going to get to that after I pass it off to others. I'll talk about that later.
Okay, thank you. We have our entrepreneurs, our all-rounder, Madam Durga Das. So how are you today? How do you want to share your views, because you are an entrepreneur and successful entrepreneurs, and I'm observing you are doing fantastic job in India with your team. You and your team win a lot of awards, especially with your water treatment projects, and it's really helpful for Indian economy. So how are you creating more job opportunity? Can you unmute yourself, please? Yeah.
Thank you, Sharif, for having me as always. And hello to everybody else. Good evening from India. And it was just nice to hear what was being discussed. So India is a little slightly different kettle of fish in terms of the labor market and what's been happening through COVID and hopefully soon post-COVID. We have had a huge fall of jobs while it wasn't initially. It was the first 2 months everyone was expecting it to be done and people would just get back to work, but that didn't happen. And instead it just continued on, and a number of companies decided that they had to pull back and reduce staff, and several went work from home, and several others actually got a huge pay cut on their compensation. But having said that, somehow in the last couple of months, something seems to have changed. India seems to be getting back on its feet for some reason. There are still some cities, some states that are having some resurgence of COVID, but vaccination is happening at a huge pace here, and people are being very positive, and jobs are actually getting back on track. It's quite interesting to see that there's a little bit of an attitude change that has happened in just the last 2 months that I've observed. And hotels are still filling up again. Hotels are running at 50-60%, whereas they were running at less than 20%, and only COVID-related cases were in hotels. But now hotels are at 60%. I was shocked to hear that 60% is a pretty decent number, even pre-COVID times, for occupancy. As you can see, I am in a hotel right now. And that's
Oh.
good news because people in hospitality who really, really suffered the worst of COVID seem to be hanging on to their jobs because occupancy has changed. Also, in remote areas where people went away to just get some breathing space, occupancies are going at 80-90%, which is unbelievable. Um, I think
Mhm.
there are still some industries which are being forced by the government to maintain, safety protocols. So it's only one in every two employees that are at work to maintain distance. But those are few and far between. But I think there's definitely an attitude change I've seen in the last 60 days, for sure.
Mhm. Excellent. And one thing I just want to know, because India show a very good important role, especially for distributing vaccines, and especially I want to say is in terms of vaccine diplomacy, India playing a very good role. Even now, more of the as India producing a lot of vaccine, many countries actually getting vaccine from there. What's going on inside India? How they maintain like so much of good global strategy, as well as maintain their internal supply chains and everything. Do you have any idea, or you want to share with our audience, because our audience has keen interest about that?
Yeah. So India has always been a go-to marketplace for drug development, right? For pharmaceutical.
Mhm.
Most of what is developed, there's always a secondary market, secondary development that happens from India. So pharmaceutical companies in India have always done very, very well. And
Mhm.
with COVID, we had the ability to mass produce the vaccine. You're not just in one location, in two locations, well, Pune as well as in Bangalore. And this mass production is now being not only useful in terms of vaccinating Indians, but we have now inquiries and distribution to several countries in the world. So it's, in a
Mhm.
manner of speaking, it has kind of put India on the map to showcase what our strength is
Mhm.
in the pharmaceutical space, in drug development
Mhm.
as well as in drug supply. And I think that it's a good thing. It's good to know that we have the ability and the capability, and we also have the quality. It's not just enough to develop drugs in mass, but also to maintain quality, because obviously this is to save lives. And it's good to know that we are able to, create quality in mass, and I think that's definitely put India in a very good spotlight on the world map. It's
Mhm.
always been there, but I think unfortunately, unfortunate COVID happened. But in a matter of speaking, it has been very, very helpful to India to to showcase its strength.
Mhm. Mhm. Thank you, thank you, thank you, ma'am. Even we want to see, because in Asia Pacific we have many water related problem, and soon we want to see your team in Malaysia or in a country like Singapore, and hopefully your team will solve water related problem here. So thank you, ma'am. So
No,
Dr. William,
absolutely.
yes,
Okay,
okay.
you know what I find inspiring about all of this, and that is simply this: that
Uh-huh.
I was reminded of a time, in 1992, when Bill Clinton said that we were changing, at least here in America, from a different economy,
Mhm.
and that we had to, at least Americans, had to exercise a different muscle. And the muscle was no longer going to be
Mhm.
their arms or their legs, it had to be their brains. And I'm heartened over in India, because India is on the forefront of exercising
Mhm.
their brains, community to community, in ways that are going to actually lead the world. So I find, unfortunate as this is, COVID, the lessons we have are that we all have to rethink how we're thinking about things and exercise a different muscle. And to the extent that uh, our nations can figure out how to exercise that different muscle, the ones with the brain,
Mhm.
those are going to be the leaders.
Mhm.
I mean, that's just my gut reaction, but I don't think I'm far off the mark. But don't mind me, Dr. Sharif.
Dr. Tresvant,
Thank you,
if I
Professor
may say
Donald.
so.
Yes, yes, Trazavant,
Well,
yeah.
well, I want to go on and say that the issue of jobs is, at least in the United States, and it's interesting to see how it is in the rest of the world. I do know about quite a bit about Europe too and Mexico, but the
Mhm.
but not as much about India, as I'm here to learn as well. But what one of the sad things that happened is that there's kind of a flow of people. They go to college, they make relationships. Those relationships lead them to their career. There's kind of this stepping stone of and there's something that people just don't seem to accept, which is that there's a huge percentage of accidents in it, a lot of serendipity. And you can put yourself in a situation where there's more serendipity. So there's a book called The Luck Factor, where a guy studied luck in England for a while. And he showed that luck had a lot to do with with the people that you encountered, because really you get everything from other people. And so so I think one of the sad things that happened with COVID is that this whole thing of doing things remotely makes it less likely to have lucky accidents. And so in the United States, we've got a worry about kind of a generation of people who've gotten set back from this flow. And that's going to require investment, which I think we have now. It's also going to require wisdom, which I wonder about. I'm hopeful, but I think this must be a problem this must be a problem everywhere, because the whole structure of jobs has it's kind of like you're shaking up the marbles and then grabbing a marble, and it's going to be a completely different color than you expect.
Exactly.
But I think that on the other hand, as I say, serendipity, the luck factor, might actually even increase to some degree because of the new relationships that are being made and the new things that are happening. When I lived in Europe, my next door neighbors were Russians, and they got all their drugs from India. And I actually buy some pharmaceuticals from India too. So I have a great deal of respect for their pharmaceutical industry. And it's nice to see the United States has been being nativist, but we're hopefully changing, because we're going to have
Actually,
surplus. We're going to have a surplus of COVID vaccines, which I'm really hoping will be kind and share with the rest of the world. We'll see.
Okay, well, listen. Under the new administration, we are not nativists anymore. There's no.
I said we have been. I didn't say that we are right now. Currently, we've been going, and there's a huge nativist contingent in this country. I mean, 70 some million people voted.
Yeah, no, I can't help them. They lost. They're losers. I mean, so be it. For the world needs to know that America is back, and things are different. And we're already beginning to see how the ripple effects with the optimism and the change. And if I might add, just some sensibility. Like, look, let's all just kind of relax and just, work on the problems that are there as they occur and handle this without being reactionary. Dr. Sharif.
Thank you. Madam Durgadas, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, you are
Yes,
a
I can.
successful woman entrepreneur. So we have many women. Hopefully they can learn from you about entrepreneurship. I know that entrepreneurship can solve many problems of the society, especially they can play a major role to creating more job opportunities. So how was your journey? How do you want to advise our youth communities in Asia Pacific, especially for women?
Interesting. I always say that, challenging situations give opportunities, right? it's a question of perspective. You can look at challenging situations and say, oh my God, we're going through this problem and I'm suffering. And you can go into depression, you can become negative, and you can start looking outside for help. But on the other hand, there are ways to handle challenging situations. And when you approach it from the right perspective, you not only create opportunities for yourself, but obviously you create it for others as well. For me personally, uh, I had a challenging situation when I was 11 years old. My father had an accident, and by the time I was 13, we had no money to pay our school fees. And we couldn't pay our school fees. So I thought, oh, cool, I don't have to go to school now. But he said, well, you have to go to school. But I said, well, somebody has to pay the school fees, right? We have to take care of that. And I happened to be playing cricket. And so I used cricket as an opportunity. I started a small business selling cricket bats and balls after school. And that's how I got started. I was, I think, a little over 13, maybe 14 years old when I started my first business to pay my school fees. Ever since then, I realized that challenging times give you the best platform for you to look within, find the energy to search for and create opportunity for yourself, right? So to any entrepreneur out there, I'll have to say that don't look at challenge as a form of difficult times. Rather look at it and say, well, what can I do about this difficult time that can create an opportunity for me and therefore for other people? Because if I create it for myself, then I will employ a few people, and I give it to them as well. So that's the way I look at life. That's my perspective, and I think if entrepreneurs can think from that point of view, um, uh, I'd like to share something before I think Dr. Treslian wants to leave, or I think he's going to step out for a minute. I'm in the process of writing a book. It's got a little bit of a, what can I say, interesting name, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but the name is If You Want to Shit, Shit Well. I'll repeat myself. If you want to shit, shit well. And I'll tell you why. I have seen people the night I have seen people the night before say, you know what, I don't eat after 7 p.m. I always drink a glass of warm milk. Some people say I have 2 spoons of isabgol, like kind of like a digestive. Okay. All this in preparation for the next morning shit. Have you seen people in the morning? Tea, coffee, cigarette, newspaper, it doesn't matter what it is. Any paraphernalia helpful to make that shit happen is all they need. The world doesn't exist. Only that is important to them. And have you ever seen somebody go into that bathroom and say, oops, I have a meeting now. I'll do 50% later. No, 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 no. If you don't shit completely, you're going to have a shitty day, right? So for the simple job of shitting, we prepare the day before. We're fully committed to the job and we never leave it half done. Why not for everything else? We can all be successful if you apply the same concept to everything else in your life, right? So the entrepreneurs out there, and this book hopefully will be out soon, it's about saying, don't take a challenge in the right spirit. Take difficult times in the right spirit. Look at difficulties as a via media, as a path to finding opportunities, and then share. And if you have the strength to do it, bring along other people with you. There will always be some leaders. There will always be some followers. Try to be a leader. If not, follow a leader. Doesn't matter which way you do it. Nothing is not one or the other is a bigger or better thing. It doesn't matter. Even to be a good follower is a good thing, right? So I think we should look at this COVID situation the way I have looked at it, and my team, Aeronero, where, like you said, we're winning awards now. Why? Because we looked at COVID as an opportunity. And we said, what can we do to help? What can we do to improvise on our product? Our product makes water from air. But by virtue of doing that, we also pump fresh air back into the room. We also remove humidity. And when we remove humidity, we remove the medium in which virus travels. So we made it a COVID-free place. So we provide clean drinking water, mineralized, and remove the environment of COVID in the room that the machine is in. I said, okay, now let's get this out there and tell people this will not just give them water, but also give them a safe environment. So we should look at opportunity even in the most difficult of situations. And interestingly, it is in those most difficult situations are the best opportunities to be found. You find the diamond, in the darkest of coal. You find the pearl, in that oyster, right? So that's the way I look at it.
Okay, Dr. Sharif, I just have to take care of something for 15 minutes. I will be right back, but I know that we are all in capable hands with you and Donald and the young lady that is impressive. Don't mind me. I'm impressed. No, I'm impressed.
Okay.
Don't mind me. So if I may take my leave for about 15 minutes, we're going to be okay. May I?
Okay.
We'll survive.
Yes, definitely you can.
I know you.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
When you come back, we'll all be alive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You'll all be
Yes,
vaccinated.
Professor Donald.
Well,
Yes.
Go on. Sorry.
Yes. Please continue. No problem. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to echo what Durga Das said, which is, as you know, I'm been a big promoter of entrepreneurship. And as I said, when we specifically had shows more about entrepreneurs, that what businesses are, the way that they form and they're successful is solving problems. So if we had a situation with no problems, we'd have a hard time starting new businesses. But fortunately, the world is completely full of problems and they'll never go away. So there'll always be some new problem. So there'll be some new problem for somebody to solve and start a business. I think that one of the things that I've been reading a lot about and seeing a lot is that in post-COVID times, because of the structure that I was saying, kind of weakening of this like path where you have to take these exact steps or people don't take you seriously because they're embedded in society, those have changed. And I think that no matter what you do, you can be an entrepreneur. Even if you work for a company, you can be, they sometimes call them intrapreneurs. And you're responsible for your own success. And there's problems everywhere, whether you work for a company or whether you're on your own. And I think that more and more people are going to wind up being their own company, whether it's just them solving problems for other people on a contract basis or being able to be able to take people along with them. I want to say one last thing, which is that you can't have leaders without followers. I mean, who are they going to lead? I mean,
Exactly.
yeah. So it's a synergy. I mean, they're the same thing. I mean, they're like two sides of a coin. You can't have one without the other. So, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Madam Durga, this point is very important. What you said, either we have to be a very good leaders or we have to be very good followers. Even from different corporation now we get complaint that yes, people are taking a lot of entrepreneur initiative now. The young communities, they do not love to do the corporate life event. They want to quit from here, want to develop their own startup, and many things happening. But my question is that yes, many content and many things about entrepreneurships, but how people become good follower? What are your advice?
Well, when I was living in California, and that's 25 years, I saw a lot of Indians come on H1 visas, work visas, right? Because they're smart. And for some reason, they would work like dogs to get that green card somehow, that permanent residences, right? And once they got it, they thought immediately, oh, I can quit my job and go start a company. Well, come on, just because you got a green card doesn't mean you're an entrepreneur and you can start a company, right? Maybe all you're good at is the job that you came here to do. Just, it's not the sign of freedom. Freedom isn't equal to saying I can build something, right? It's not the same. And I found so many of them getting so excited with freedom that they went to start a company. And I would think at least 90% of them failed and shut shop and went back to a job, right? It was short-lived.
Mm-hmm.
This excitement of freedom, thinking I can now go build something, was short-lived. It's
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurship is not about freedom. It's actually a lack of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
When you become an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
when you become a leader, you are now enslaved to everybody. You are enslaved to your
Mm-hmm.
employees, to your investors, to your
Mm-hmm.
customers, right? To your family, everybody. Just the whole ecosystem, you are now responsible to. Where is the freedom in it?
Exactly.
And what is so,
Mm-hmm.
unless you're capable of handling that level of pressure, that level of
Mm-hmm.
commitment, that level of responsibility, you cannot become an
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur. It's very cool to say I'm an entrepreneur. You know, it's become the buzzword. I am an entrepreneur. I run my own company now. I am free. No, you're not free, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
You've just tied yourself up more than ever. It's more
Mm-hmm.
freeing to be an employee and to be a follower, right? And follow another leader because all you got to do is your job. And usually that job is earmarked. It's a little box that says this is what you got to do when you come in the morning. And once you're done, you can go home and be with your family. And you get paid at the end of every month. You don't need to worry about where the money comes from and how you get paid. That's somebody else's worrying, right? And
Mm-hmm.
as an employee, as long as you do a great job, you're actually in the most free position you can ever imagine. Being a leader
Mm-hmm.
has so much responsibility that one has to think truly if you're capable of handling that level of pressure, that level of responsibility. And it's not a job you can quit and run away. It's like being a parent. You can't say, oh, today I want to be a dad or a
Mm-hmm.
mom. And then 4 years from now say, oh, it's a hard job. I don't want to be a mom anymore. Excuse me, you just had a kid.
Mm-hmm.
The kid is 4 years old. You can't now stop being a mom. You will be a mom for the rest of your life,
Mm-hmm.
whether you like it or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
So being a leader, starting a company means exactly that. You're in it
Mm-hmm.
for the lifetime of it. It's not easy to start and run away. And I think most people don't realize it. Most young people don't realize it, and they have to think about it, right, before they take that plunge. And so I think sometimes
Mm-hmm.
uh, it is easier to be a good follower, let somebody else direct you. But if you truly want to be a leader and entrepreneur, well, hats off to you. I'm with you. But please
Mm-hmm.
understand whether you have the skill sets for it. If you don't have the skill sets for something, you shouldn't be doing it. For example, I play cricket,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm a batsman, I'm a wicket keeper, right? I used to bowl, but I don't bowl anymore. I'm too old to bring my arm down. Well, I can't go in there and say,
Mm-hmm.
well, I used to bowl when I was, 10 years old. Let me start now. I'm not going to get any
Mm-hmm.
wickets. I'm going to give away runs, and I'm going to make my
Mm-hmm.
team lose. So one has to think about what are my strengths, what are my skill sets, whether I'm capable of handling this responsibility, and not for a short period of time, for the lifetime. And if I am, then sign up for it and bully to you. You can be a good leader. But leadership isn't something to be frivolous about. Isn't something that you can just try and change your mind the next day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Professor Donald.
She reminds me of a talk that I heard by the CEO of Adobe just before he retired. You know, they got a new CEO, but he'd been the CEO for the whole time until he retired 10 or 15 years ago. And he just sighed with a weary sigh. And he said, people asked him, how do you feel about retiring? He said, I am so tired of dealing with analysts and explaining every single solitary penny we made. He says, I was an engineer. I didn't sign up for this. And he took the responsibility seriously and did a very excellent job, but it's not the job that you expect. I see so many engineers here in Silicon Valley that want to start a company because they have a great product idea, but that's not what CEOs do. CEOs explain to the board why their quarterly results were the way they were, and they prepare the quarterly results, and they do all this financial stuff, and it's not the job that people expect. I will say though that the research at Stanford, we found that over half the companies in Silicon Valley are started by Indians and Chinese. So we're, you know, when we try and, you know, somebody tries to block people from coming in the country, they're just like morons, because we have been getting this brilliant talent from everywhere. And I think that might be changing a little bit, because there's other places in the world now where people can go. They have places where they can meet the kind of people that they need to be successful. Because ultimately, what makes Silicon Valley so successful is that if I want an intellectual property lawyer, I can go out to Page Mill Road and there is 10-story building after 10-story building that's filled with intellectual property lawyers. If I want venture capital, still half the venture capital in the world is in the United States, and it's extremely concentrated in Silicon Valley. So that all of those resources allow me to be able to put things together. But as I said, half the venture capital in 1990s, it was 95% of the venture capital. So things are really starting to change, and and we're becoming more global in entrepreneurship. There's more opportunities for people in many places. But what I've mentioned several times before in the past is that about comparative advantage. No matter what happens, some place is going to be better at doing something than someplace else. And so we need to, if we work together, we can add that all together and make more. For an individual, when we're talking about the idea of being an entrepreneur, I want to point out that there's kind of levels of that. In Silicon Valley, there's quite a lot of people who are independent contractors. They're businesses of one, and many of them can do quite well and there's opportunity to work independently, or you can work through job shops. And so job shops are places that find temporary employees and place them, and you become an employee of the job shop, but you're constantly changing jobs. So you need to be able to really be an entrepreneur, even if you're an employee of those places, because you wind up having responsibility to go into the situation and identify the issues and problems and take care of them yourselves. And from what I'm seeing, that overall global, certainly in the United States and globally, there's more and more of a tendency for companies to want to have these temporary employees rather than make a commitment at the expense of having permanent employees. So I think when you're looking for, I think that's a major change in the labor market, and I think it's something that everybody should become aware of and look for opportunities in that way, because they're increasing rather than decreasing. So thank you.
Thank you. Madam Durgadas, in COVID-19 situation, many companies do well. Even many traditional companies, they face a lot of challenges, especially even in COVID-19 situation. We do a lot of work on training and awareness program on corporate resilience. So how your company actually make their business strategy in COVID-19 situations, and how you create more job opportunity inside India?
So, as a company, at least as far as my company goes, what we did was very simple. When the lockdown happened, and we were all had to work from home, we started looking at, why don't we spend time in creating, looking at strategy. What is our product? Who are we? Who are our customers? What is our product? What are our competitors like? How do we compare against them? What should we be making? What should be the goals of the product design that we should be focusing on? So we use that time very, very effectively to kind of step back, because normally when business is running as usual, we all have a job to do. We're all running in different directions, whether it's sales running after customers, finance running after money, investors after information, or technology after production. We all have a certain job to do, and that mostly consumes all of our time. And then companies decide to take some time out, and that time out is when you go and do strategy, and you try to figure out, okay, what's next? Where are we going? What we did with COVID was the first 3-4 months, we just said, let's strategize and let's use this opportunity to understand what are the kind of problems that we will continue with. I don't think that COVID is going to just disappear, as in disappear. We will have vaccination, and therefore we build some resilience against it. But I don't think, this social distancing, the lack of a handshake versus, a folding of arms, or the mask that we use is going to disappear. I think we've all been put on some level of, what can I say, check. And we are going to be very cautious going into the future because we never know when the next COVID will come. What is the next virus? Why not maintain hygiene and sanitation always? For example, in India, where I come from, we always left our slippers and shoes outside the house. We never brought it inside. When we come inside, we always wash our hands and our feet. We never shook hands. We always did this, right? And there's an interesting story about the folding of hands. What this means is actually in India, in Indian philosophy is, I bow down to the God in you. There is a God inside all of us. There is divinity inside all of us. So we just say we bow down to that divinity in you. And that is a way of respect to the person you're saying hello to. We used to do this. And somehow we lost all of it because we're all, manner of speaking, westernized. We shake hands, we wear our shoes that we walk on the streets with inside the home, right? And with COVID, the Western world became Eastern, right? Literally overnight, everything turned the other way around. There's a lot of Western world that actually follows Eastern philosophy more than people in the East, people in India or anywhere in Asia. I find the Westerners have become more philosophical. I lived in the Silicon Valley for 25 years. Actually, Donald, I was in Los Gatos. I lived in Los Gatos for 25 years, and I found so many people in my community who followed yoga, meditation. I'm not saying religion, but forms of alternate search. More so than Indians, who I found were going outwards and saying, "Oh, let's go clubbing, let's go pubbing." They were all over the place. But I think COVID kind of brought everybody to the same place. Live life with sanitation and hygiene. Learn to keep some distance. And I think it was a kind of a game changer. But what I'm coming to say is, going forward, I don't think COVID is going to disappear in a sense of perspective from our mind, because we will always now be cautious. We'll be cautious with our health. We'll be cautious with how we interact with other people. And we will always, if anyone in business is going to be thinking, wow, this could happen again. So how do I prepare my business for it? How do I create resiliency in my business? How do I choose to innovate? How can I choose to pivot? How do I choose to see this as an opportunity rather than a problem? And this mind change has begun to happen in everybody. I'm only grateful and I'm hopeful that this mind change continues to develop and not become stagnant. Because this is a great moment in time, not just in one country, but around the world, to make people think about how to always be thinking out of the box, how to be creative, how to take every situation as an opportunity. And as long as our minds are thinking that way, we will continue to progress in whatever business we do. Right? Some will obviously always make more money than others, but that happened pre-COVID, and it's hopefully going to happen post-COVID, right? But that's an opportunity, and COVID hopefully has pushed or motivated or propelled people to start thinking differently. So I hope to see many more successful entrepreneurs because their minds have changed. Their minds have said, "Oh, this could happen. What can I do better?"
Yes, excellent. Professor Donald, you always give some good example from Finland, from Japan. So what's going on in the COVID period inside their corporations and their business world?
Excuse me. The
Yeah.
I've actually, I have to leave early today because I have a Japanese client that I'm going to be meeting with. And actually, he's Japanese, but he's living in Santa Clara. Though I have most of my clients are in Japan. I think that's something that's really been useful for me in the COVID period, which is that I'm able to have clients over Zoom that wouldn't have met with me face to face before. I mean, they would require me to meet with them face to face. And now, since they can't, everybody's all of a sudden, it's provided a huge opportunity to me because I can work globally much more easily. I mean, look what we're doing right now. I mean, you know, it's so much more viable during the post-COVID period because everybody's getting used to things like this. Finland, as usual, people are very cooperative there, so they didn't really have a huge problem with COVID because they said everybody should wear masks, and everybody said, okay, you know, to protect each other. And they said, well, that's what we like to do. We like to protect each other. So everybody wore masks, and they didn't really have much of a problem. In where I live, everybody wears masks. And it's interesting. I really agree with what she said, which is that we might be changing forever because when everybody was first wearing masks, it was really odd. But now it's completely expected. I mean, everybody's wearing masks. I mean, you get used to it after a while. And a fun question to ask somebody is, did you have a cold this year? No. That's because the exact same thing that prevents COVID prevents colds. We had the lowest flu season I think we've ever had. New Zealand had the lowest flu season that they've ever had. So doing this protects us from all kinds of diseases besides just COVID. So it's a pretty darn good habit to have, actually. So for the people who missed a year of school because they couldn't go and they had to try and do it remotely, and that's a lot more difficult because if you have a professor talking to you for 45 minutes on a video, it'll knock you out faster than an IV of phenobarbital in about 10 minutes. And you really have to be dedicated to be able to do it. And so but you know, everybody's in the same boat. And as she said, and I agree with completely, is that this makes a lot more opportunities. And of course, I gave the example of me. This has turned out to be an opportunity for me that's been valuable. So I can't even, you know, I have my own little place where my own little things that I see, but there's the whole world out there, and every single solitary person is in their own place and they see what they see, and they're going to have opportunities everywhere around them. But you kind of have to have the confidence in a way. And I think that one of the things that people need to be confident about is that basically almost everybody wants to help you. They do. Because there's nothing that feels better than helping somebody else. It's good for your health. It's good for your psyche. It's good for everything. I mean, think yourself. Have you ever helped somebody meet somebody that they started dating? Have you ever helped somebody get a job? Have you ever helped somebody do anything? And you're lying in bed that night, and you're thinking about yourself as a person. You just love yourself. So the point of the matter, what I'm getting to is, if you make these jumps into the world where you're relying on yourself a lot more than you would have normally, be confident that everybody's trying to help you, and that if you persist and do what you promised, then you will almost for sure succeed in some way. I'm going to say one more thing, which is that tell a story. When I was first living in Palo Alto, I rented a room in a house, And actually, the guy who owned the house was Steve Jobs' roommate in college. He was the guy that went to India with Steve Jobs, Dan Kotke. And there was an Indian guy living there who went to, was it IIT, the best school in technical school in India. And well, he didn't go to IIT. He did. But the point of the matter is everyone else he knew seems to have started a company and made lots of money. And he was so down on himself that he hadn't done that. And I managed to talk to him for a while. And after a while, I got him to realize, I said, success isn't just money. Success can be having a wonderful family that everybody that loves you and has success. You could be an artist. You could be totally by yourself, but find some passion that you're able to put yourself into. In a way, those are entrepreneurial things too, because they require commitment. They're not something you can just do and then just say, okay, I'm not going to, it's just going to go away. I'm just going to change. Just like she said, you can't, if you have a family, that's that. And so be confident that people are going to help you, and remember that success isn't just money. And thank you.
Thank you. Madam Durgadash, I think you have strong engagement with sports. So, and we have many youth community. We love to know that how sports help to develop your entrepreneurial mindset.
I could talk about this for hours, but I'll try and keep it short because I know Donald said he
Yes.
has to leave as well. But what I want to just comment a little bit more to what Donald said. Uh, Success is not about money. He's so absolutely right about it. Success is about, to me, success is when you can finally, honestly, true to your conscience, respect yourself 24/7, 365 days a year. When you can respect yourself about everything, by what you say, what you do, what you think, what you feel, in any situation, good or bad, if you have done the right thing, you will automatically build respect for yourself. That respect gives you a sense of power, a sense of empowerment. And that's when you find true success. It is not about money. You could be begging on the side of a street, but as long as you have found true empowerment, because what you think, what you speak, what you feel, what you do are all aligned, then you will start to respect yourself. When you respect, it's success.
Mhm.
When you cannot answer your own conscience because you say, oops, I shouldn't have talked that way today, or I shouldn't have done that to that person, or I shouldn't have, charged that person this much more, then you have not done something right. So obviously you don't have 100% respect for yourself because you can be better, you can do better, you can say better, you can think better and feel better. So the day you achieve that, I think you truly have achieved success. So I really thank Donald for bringing that up because it's so true. It isn't about money. It's about self-respect, right? That's success. But yes, coming back to sports, So as you know, I played competitively in India, and then I captained the US cricket team. I also captained the Americas team in cricket. I played the amateur golf circuit. I competitively sail. I cycle, I ride a bike, I ride a Harley, but every single one of them taught me something. When I go sailing, I learned patience because you can't tell the wind to just blow. It will blow when it blows. You have to wait and watch the telltale signs to make your move. When you play golf, it's the only sport in the world where you have to call a penalty on yourself, which means it teaches you honesty. Nobody's going to be watching you. You have to watch yourself and you have to be honest. When I played cricket, I learned about playing in a team. I learned about leadership, right? So every sport taught me some quality, a quality of leadership, of playing as a team, of humility, of patience, of improvisation, about creativity, about thinking out of the box, about strategy, and more importantly, right, I think it taught me that you have to be open to winning and losing. You can't win every time. You lose sometimes. But in the losing, if you see it from the right perspective, you're still winning.
Mhm.
And that is what sports taught me. And I think for me, everything I achieved as an entrepreneur, and that gave me whatever I have today, I learned on some field, on some sports field. I didn't learn it in college. I didn't learn it in school. I didn't learn it with a PhD. I learned
Mhm.
it playing some sport on some field.
Mhm. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I think it's a really, really great discussion, especially our audience. They really uh, love your comments. Like uh, Saros, I think he's from Sri Lanka. He said, thankful to COVID, because if this is not happened, this kind of meeting, knowledge exchangeables are very much to be possible. Anyway, I think many audience and many people from different countries, they really enjoy World Talent Economy Forum discussions, roundtable discussions, and many things. I know we have some time limitations, so I directly want to go for the concluding remarks for today. I want to start from Professor Donalds and then Madam Durgadash.
Okay, I do have to go in just a very, very shortly. However, I really enjoy having Madam Dugadash here. She's her insights are valuable and enlightening. So thank you for coming. And I just want to reiterate. I want to say one other thing, which is that in Finland, uh, people are taught from their mother's knee to be able to go to work for a large corporation. And that worked in Finland because Finland's economy, 20% of it or something was Nokia. And then there was all the companies that then service Nokia. So there was a lot of large companies in Finland. Well, Nokia crashed and burned, and they had to change their strategy. So the people that had worked for Nokia, the government, they encouraged entrepreneurs, and they found ways that people could be entrepreneurs, and they started more companies than anyone in the world for a while per capita. And the whatever you do, like, don't completely set yourself that there's only one way of doing things,
Mhm.
because and don't try anymore. You had to go to work for a startup as a follower or a leader. As a team member, I think is better than follower. Um, and and you've been taught your whole life that isn't what you're supposed to do. You can't. You have to realize that you're yourself. Situations change, and that no matter what you do, whether you're working for a big company or whatever, it's ultimately you, and the way that you act and solve problems and feel about yourself. So I totally agree with what she's saying about integrity. And I hope that you'll take that message from me. And I have to go because I've got
Mhm.
another client. So
Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you.
bye.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Donald.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you for your kind words. Thank
Okay,
you so
thank you.
much.
Yes,
Really
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
thank you. Madam Durga, what's the concluding remarks for today?
Concluding remarks. I'll give one sentence. Great ideas need landing gears as well as wings. And what I mean by that is, everything can be a great idea, but the timing has to be right. And sometimes we come out with good ideas and we're maybe too early to the game. Maybe we're too late to the game. But one should just persevere, maybe pivot, maybe hang in there. If you can wait till the right time comes, then wait. But if you're too late, then pivot, change, have the humility to say, oh, you know what? I came into this game too late. Now I need to change and have the ability to change because, succeeding in life is about having flexibility, about having understanding compromise, about having humility. It's not about ego. It's not about saying, I know it. I got a great idea. I am the best at it. That doesn't work, right?
Mhm.
You have to think that first of all, everybody else is smart, maybe smarter than me. If
Mhm.
that's the case, then how do I still succeed? And if you can come from that point of view, of understanding that people around you may be smarter than you, right?
Mhm.
Then you will have humility to figure out creative ways of creating opportunity for yourself. The minute you think you know it all, you're already digging a deep hole. You're not going to
Mhm.
get out of that soon. You might see short term success, but certainly in the long term, you will not last. So
Mhm.
that's my concluding remark.
Thank you for joining today, and really, I'm sure I really enjoyed today's session, especially how I learned from you. Even our audience really enjoy today's sessions, and hopefully in the future we will get more of your support, and by this way we will grow together, and we wish you all the best. Thank you for
Thank you,
joining
Sharif,
today's
as
session.
always. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, take care, bye bye.
Bye.